The 8th annual GM Hauler Trucking Jamboree is being held on the grounds of Antiques Powerland. This truck and tractor museum features over 100 different vehicles, including steam engines, steam-powered tractors, and old milling equipment. It's a large collection, but one of the biggest and most impressive collections devoted to early power, especially farm power, is up in Tylerville, New York. It's the Tired Iron Museum, owned by Bump Hamilton. This building is only one of two here at the Tired Iron Museum, housing over 100 trucks and tractors. It's just like stepping into a bygone era. Every vehicle on display was made between 1915 and 1950, and nearly all of them are in running condition, too. If you guessed from all these trucks and tractors that the man who owns them grew up on a farm, you'd be right. Bump Hamilton is still a full-time farmer, but judging from the quality of these vehicles, I'd say Bump has two full-time jobs, the second one running this museum. Bump, I know your corn's ready to pick, and I appreciate you coming off the tractor to show us around here. I've never seen so many tractors under one roof, and I know you got some trucks, too. Can you show us?
I'll show you my favorite one, the Lynn. And they used them to plow snow. They had a V-plow on this truck and a wing on each side. And then two men had to ride up in the back end, a little box there, to run the wings. Then one guy drove it, and the other guy run the V-plow in the front. And then they used them for logging, like up in the Adirondacks. They'd take them up in the mountains there and draw logs out with them. And then after they blacktopped all these roads, they couldn't use them because these tracks would tear the roads up, you know. So they made them park them. After they built they call them Irwin roads, they blacktop.
Why is this your favorite?
Oh, I just like it. It's a good old, it's an odd one. There ain't any other ones around.
Bump also has a 1925 LaFrance fire truck and a 1930 Model A Ford. The fire truck was originally from the city of Batavia, New York. Then it fell into the hands of the owner of the Genesee Beer Company, who sold it to Bump. Bump, where did you get the old 30 Model A?
One day I seen this old woman farmed it in between us, and I asked her what she was doing. She said, cleaning out the garage. Said, I'm going to junk that old Model A truck. Oh. I said, you can't junk that, it's too good. And she said, well, junk dealer offered me $25 for it. So I jumped out of the truck and gave her $25, and I said, I'll bring it. We took it home, put a battery in, and started it right up. You couldn't kill them old things. They'd run forever.
Bump, I guess the strangest looking vehicle here to me is that yellow job back there, that Minneapolis Moline. What is that?
I'll tell you, they made them in 1937. They made 150 of them, and they had to have so much more money than a regular tractor that it took them 2 years to sell them. They never made any more. It's got two transmissions in, it's got a four-cylinder engine in, and then that cab had two seats in.
So it is a tractor then?
Yeah, it's a tractor. They used to advertise in American Agriculture, plow all day and pull a pin and do your shopping at night. Because it would go 40 miles an hour on the road.
Around here, Bump is known as the Tractor Man, but it's not just the size of his collection that impresses everybody so much. Folks come from all over to see some of the rarest vehicles you'll find anywhere. This 1950 Porsche tractor is quite rare. Porsche made them 1 year only. What's so unusual about it is that it was made especially for grape picking, so it's not as wide as other tractors. This next one is the forerunner of the John Deere tractor, called a Waterloo Boy. It was made in Waterloo, Iowa between 1916 and 1922. It's odd in the sense that the radiator and the engine sit crossways on the chassis, and for that reason, it's one of Bump's favorites. This 1926 Fordson was the first tractor that Bump ever drove. It used to be his father's tractor on the farm where he grew up. After that, he used it on his own farm until he retired it to this museum. Taking the time to preserve automotive and trucking history is important to a lot of folks. One group of avid truck collectors is the American Truck Historical Society. Once a year, this organization holds an enormous national convention. I was fortunate enough to attend their 20th reunion in Marlborough, Massachusetts, where the real stars are these old trucks on display. Back in 1971, a handful of trucking industry founders got together to form this association. Their goal was to collect and preserve historical information, equipment, artifacts, and records related to the birth and development of trucking in the United States. Today, the ATHS boasts over 12,000 members in 45 chapters from the United States to Canada, and this event is the highlight of the Society's year. This year's convention has thousands of collectors in attendance. Many of them have impressive collections. One of them, Herb Flack from Hull, Massachusetts, brought 5 rare trucks. Herb, I assume this is one of your trucks.
Yes, it is, Ed.
What is this?
This is a U-model auto car, models U70, tank truck, single axle. It's a cab over, although the cab doesn't tip, the motor is underneath the seat. To work on it, you have to go into the cab, which has what we call the old suicide doors. They open this way. It isn't fully restored, but it's still usable. We use it as a fuel truck in our operation. We're involved in trucking business.
Herb's business gives him a good excuse to use his collection, like this beautiful 1940 Chevrolet 3/4-ton pickup, which he drives regularly. Another auto car in his collection is this 1951 DC-75, still active in his fleet. Herb also brought along this 1954 white, model WC-22 PLT. It looks as good as new. But his personal favorite is this rare 1928 Mac AB with shaft drive.
It was purchased by me from a lady that had it in an orange grove in Ocala, Florida, and I brought it back, and everybody wanted to know if I was having a breakdown or what. The condition of it, there was a bird's nest in the radiator, and the hood was smashed in, it was all rusted, hadn't heard it run, and I literally built it from the ground up.
All of these trucks are collector's items, and each one is special for a different reason.
This is a domestic gas engine and a winch that have been together since 1912. A farmer up in Hackettstown, New Jersey had them. He had gotten them off a barge that came out of the Passaic River, and I restored them and put them on here as a piece of equipment to go along with rigging, which this truck is built to do.
It's a 1950 Mercury. It's an M47. They're identical to the Ford. These were available only in Canada from 46 until I think it was 67. They're never sold in the States. And you get things like chrome grille and a few other goodies that you couldn't get in the Fords. They're just a little fancier, that's all.
It's a cab-over engine type truck, and they are a little rarer than the conventional Ford trucks. Guys didn't like to drive them because the engines were hot, and you're sitting right on the front wheel, so they're a little more uncomfortable. The advantage to them is they have a shorter wheelbase, and you can have a long body and still turn it around in the middle of a street or whatever.
This is a 1937 GMC. I grew up around this truck. I remember it as a child. It belonged to a neighbor up the road, and it disappeared. And a few years later, it turned up in pieces, and I put it back together.
Here at the 20th Annual ATHS Convention, I get as much fun out of watching people watch the trucks as I do watching the trucks. I think I understood that. Truck lovers come in all shapes, sizes, and ages, and so do their trucks. For a look at some of the newest trucking styles, I traveled out west to San Bernardino, California, to see what was happening at the Radical West Coast Mini National. There are over 300 trucks competing in this event. It's sponsored by the Southern California Mini Truck Council. They represent over 225 different clubs, all specializing in minis. Despite the name, this event is not limited to mini trucks. So we'll see some of the most original customizing in Southern California, no matter what size the truck. Out here on the West Coast, mini trucks are very big. They're chopped, channeled, sliced, and diced for every design imaginable. This 1985 Toyota extended cab is a perfect example. Ed Olson told automotive artist Russ Gerner to make his truck different and use plenty of imagination. The colorful undersea theme is complemented by a fully chromed suspension and a professionally upholstered interior. Congratulations, Ed. That's a real showstopper. One of the most competitive categories being judged here at the West Coast Mini National is custom paint. Here in Southern California, paint jobs do get creative. All the categories here today are divided between closed bed and open bed pickups. Of course, you can do a lot more with the interior of a closed bed pickup. Let's take a look at some of the interior creations of the closed bed competition. Eric Taylor's 1987 Toyota Extra Cab sports a radical interior under a tilt bed cap. In the rear, Toyota MR2 seats are framed by powerful speakers. Eric's most proud of the walk-through cab feature, which allows him access to his very own entertainment center. Nice job, Eric. The West Coast Mini Truck Nationals is more than a show and shine. In fact, only 1/5 of the estimated 1,500 trucks here are in competition. Besides enjoying the show, most truckers come to camp out for the weekend and socialize. And of course, there are always plenty of games. Hey, let's go! Some of those games are as wild and creative as these trucks. Take a look at this.
This particular truck was set up with a radar system along with a convenience system where when you set the alarm like this, the windows will automatically roll up. It's a 1991 Chevrolet pickup truck that we've lowered. Okay, we've also added some graphics to it and shaved the rear taillights to turn it into a ZR1 look.
You know, Southern California is the home of the lowriders. 4x are just as popular. Check it out. This big 86 half-ton Nissan hardbody was built by Steve Coos of Rancho Cucamonga, California. He wanted to create a flashy show truck with a 4x4 look. It took a lot of effort to replace the Nissan independent suspension, so when he was finished, he installed a glass window in the floor to admire his handiwork.
The glass bottom cap floors on the inside. When I bought it, it was stock. I raised everything, put a 13-inch lift on it, did everything myself at home, so I'm quite most proud of that.
Well, you should be, Steve. Here's another truck whose owner has something to be proud of. When Steve Bashkin of San Clemente, California bought this 1991 Toyota, it already had a straight axle conversion and a 12-inch lift. He's made his own improvements, including the addition of 18 Rancho shocks. But the feature that really makes this truck stand out here at the West Coast Mini Truck Nationals is its gull-wing doors. Radical truck, Steve, and we've certainly seen our share of those so far. But there is one very special truck I remember that really shines. The world-famous ISCA Grand Finale winner, the Gold Digger. The Gold Digger is a one-of-a-kind, custom-built truck which is currently valued at over $200,000, and for very good reason. This truck started out as a 1977 Chevy pickup. Rennie received it for his high school graduation present. But as you can see, it's been totally customized. Rennie, this doesn't look like your average pickup truck. How much of this is original?
Nothing's original.
Totally customized.
Only custom from the front end to the tailgate on the back.
Underneath, doors.
The chassis is torn down to bare frame, built all the way up. All the panels have been modified. The top has been chopped.
How long did it take to do it?
7 years.
The Gold Digger is all metal, and some of that metal happens to be worth a few dollars, because Rennie has gold-plated every nut, bolt, and washer in the Gold Digger. How much gold are we talking about?
Dollars, looking over $10,000 in gold.
You can buy a lot of cars for just the Gold Digger, this one.
You buy a house for this.
Rennie's obsession with the Gold Digger earned him the highest award in the ISCA show car competition, and for the first time in 20 years, a truck was named the International Grand Champion. This is kind of a broad question. What's involved in winning the ISCA International Grand Championship?
Well, you got to route your plan of attack. You got to know what shows you want to go to, what shows you have to go to. You can't miss a show. You're looking at 55,000 miles of traveling, 25 plus shows a year.
How many bales of hay can you haul in here?
Oh, 6.5 bales.
I think the bed of the truck really is probably what sets it apart.
Well, it's a 3/4 inch plexiglass. The reason why we did this is because there's so much mist if we were to cover it up. so much detail. I mean, you look at the drive lines of the half shafts, the welds are turned on a lathe. The normal eye, not even half the judges even notice that. You know, you got gold-plated U-joints. You know, just looking under the truck, you don't spot that, but looking down into it, you don't, you know, you really see the detail more.
How many projects did you have before the Gold Digger?
This is the first project.
How did you get, what motivated you to go for this?
Well, I was showing, and I was winning my class, but I wasn't winning best truck. So we went in for a paint job, and along the way, things got carried away, and next thing you know, we got a show-winning pickup.
How much did you spend on the Gold Digger?
That's for $150,000.
Now, what's she worth now?
The value right around $200,000.
Amazing piece of work. 10 years and over $150,000 later, the Gold Digger earned a place in history as the ISCA's International Grand Champion. Congratulations, Rennie. Well, we've covered the whole spectrum from the sublime to the sensational. And each of these beautiful trucks is a real tribute to its creator. Hope you've enjoyed it. I have. And I hope I'll be seeing you down the road as I keep on Truckin USA. Have a good day.